On the escalator again.
Leave it alone.
What?
Comics.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
TV and movies. Wrestling. Music.
We are just getting started!
Finally, a podcast about things you actually care about, hosted by a couple of guys who actually care about those things too.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep. Maybe a little too much.
Yes, that's awesome.
The talented one, Chris Machete.
That no-talent ass clown became famous.
And Brenton, you know, that guy from your other favorite podcast.
I liked it. I was good at it.
So grab onto the handrail and don't let go.
There's a little boy caught the escalator!
This is the Kids on the Escalator podcast.
Woo!
Here's CM and BD.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Cheers.
The show has begun.
Yay.
And it's a Monday. We're doing like two within a couple of days of each other. Look at this shit.
Yeah, because you were just here, right?
I was in your home right beside you where you're
No,
sitting
I know.
now.
It's been a huge weekend. What day was that, though? That was Thursday.
Maybe Thursday? Something like
It was
that.
Thursday because it was my busy day. Yeah, good, cool.
Then you went and played the hockey and scored the goal there, eh?
I have a scoring streak. I'm on a scoring streak.
Yeah, I'm only on the team because they let me. I'm only on the team because I pay my team fees.
No, I do that too.
That's all that is.
I couldn't make it today, though. I couldn't play today. I was too busy.
No?
Couldn't do my Monday
Too
hockey
busy.
with the old folks. Yeah, couldn't do it. So busy.
Well,
I'd say we had the Comic-Con yesterday, and our first Comic-Con for Machete Comics. It was a huge success, massive. Like I'm talking, like, dude, it couldn't have went any better. I made a new friend, David Day, an amazing, legendary Marvel comic artist. He was right beside me. I was in the Marvel pit there.
From
He
Kingston,
lives around
Ontario,
here as well.
no less. How about that?
He's from the Gananoque right around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did the Comic-Con, and I was hanging out with David Day. Well, I'll get into that later, right?
Yeah, we'll get into. We're gonna go
I'll get into that
part
later.
two
That's
and
great.
talk about your adventures there.
Yeah, and
but-
then the workshop started. The workshop started today, man. I just got back from that from SBT Comics.
Oh yeah, that's
so much cool stuff at SBT Comics.
Start SBT Comics. So, what were you doing at the workshop?
Teaching the future artists how to make comic books, how to draw. And I have, I got about 10 kids in there, and they are so talented, man. It's amazing how fast these kids draw these days. But I'm laying down how to do the comics, man. Like, here's how you do it like a pro. Here's how I did mine. Here's what you should look for. How do I draw a hand? Here's how you draw a hand. Here's a quick way. What should I do with this? Maybe pose them like this. I just help them, teach them how to draw. And we chat, and they're great kids. And a lot of these kids are very creative and don't go out and do a lot of things. So it's nice to have, they don't play a lot of sports. So it's good to have them in this setting so they can work with other people. And I really love working with kids. I really don't teach very much anymore. So I enjoy it while I do it.
We got a guest today.
Oh,
We're gonna
yeah,
get
we
into a whole
do.
bunch of stuff. We got a guest today. This guy plays music sometimes. He likes to rock out all the time. He slaps at the bass, man, and he also plays the guitar with these guys. And he plays with this guy, and they put a record out, and they just got back off tour, and we haven't talked to him about any of the stuff that's been going on. So welcome to the show, Mr. Kerns. How are you? That's Todd Kerns from
Great to be here. It's great to be here and hanging out with you fine folks. And I'm jealous I missed the comic convention. It's amongst my favorite things in the world to do.
Chris was stoked to get there, man. It was awesome. So it's how you been, man? You've been out touring and seeing this fine world with Slash and Mr. Fitz and the fellas.
Yes, we went out in a bubble. Like you all know the story of us going to Nashville to make a record, this record, which I have on cassette. We talked about this earlier. We went out to Nashville to make that record, and 4 out of 5 of us got COVID. 5 out of 6 technically, because our guitar tech got it as well. And actually the engineer, or the assistant engineer, got it as well. So anyway, but we went out on this tour with that whole kind of like, well, Hail Mary, we got to kind of go out there and bubble it and try and, it was very interesting doing it because as the tour was occurring, things were opening up. Even from state to state, the laws are all different anyway, or they were. But, things are very open now, like all the way across. So, but we still managed to do the entire tour without getting sick. And then I came home and got sick. not COVID, but I got knocked out for almost a week just with some gnarly cold that kicked my ass. But I was saying to my wife, it's funny how that happens. Like your body is kind of like, that's keeping up the fight. Like, we got to get through this. We're going to do the tour. And then as soon as you get home, your body's like, okay, now we can get sick. And you're like, oh, come on. Yeah. Which is, I guess, better than being in the Milwaukee or something like that. And, oh, man.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
You know where it's not normal is here in Quebec. Quebec, I walk into the hotel in Quebec City. Love the city. Walk in the hotel. She said, "Shit, you need to put your mask on." I'm like, really? Which I'm not going to fight about. But I was like, really? She's like, oh yeah, you got to put it on. And they were. It was like everywhere I went here, it's full on. So they're still in it.
Yeah.
There you go.
If I pop in Walmart, I bring my mask.
Yeah, you kind of have to. It's at a point now where you just have it. Have a couple in the car just in case someone's got a new thing. But in the States, I mean, here in Vegas, it's pretty much just wide open. I mean, I think even airplanes now. I think airplanes are like, doing masks. So whatever. Yeah, we're not really through this, but we're doing it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
I have a big Kiss Army logo on my mask, so I don't mind. I like wearing it.
As you should, sir.
Yeah. I wear the Kiss Army mask proudly. Which I
Perfect.
wish I had. I have a Machete. We made the Machete Comics logo into the Kiss Army logo. It's like instead of Kiss Army, it says Machete Comics. I wish I had the sticker on hand I could show, but I do not. But I sold out of those yesterday at the show. There it is, right there in the corner.
There you go. That's great.
There it is. Yes, thanks.
You guys are like so professional. I appreciate that.
We know professional people, Todd, but that's where it ends. That's where it ends. There's only two talented people on this panel. I'll tell you that right now. One, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't know about that.
It's funny, but so a lot's been going on. So, we've kind of dabbled a bit into what some of the things have been going on in since we've last spoken, and we were excited about Out of Wanda and all these series that had started, Todd. But Chris finally saw the Batman.
Yeah, he did. It's on Crave now for free.
Is it really?
I had seen it. I had seen it, and then I was waiting because I'm like, come on, dude. And then he got it on Crave, and he saw it. We talked about it a little bit last week. Mm-hmm. However, we would like to hear your thoughts because
Todd, what do you think of this one?
And you went out and saw it. So, what do you think there, dude?
It's really interesting because you guys know Batman's sort of my guy. I wish I could show you. There's a giant statue right behind here. That was my Christmas present from Slash. But it was. This is the best thing is having a wife that we saw the movie and we saw it in Florida. We saw it in Florida where we ended the tour. We wanted to go see the Batman. We were waiting to see the Batman movie the whole time, but because we were in a bubble, we should wait. And then we came home, and that first Tuesday, let's go see Batman again. That's why I married this woman. She's the best.
Nice.
But I will say, and I've sat through so many movies that I have this Kevin Smith attitude where I'm kind of like, I heard him once say, I just never expected we'd be living in a day and age where these movies would be getting made. Batman's one thing, it's the Thors and
Guardians and
all that stuff where you're kind of like, I can't believe this is not only is this being made, but it's mega successful. But when it comes to Batman and having lived through every franchise to this point, I thought, I have to be honest, I really, really enjoyed it. I really loved it. I went in very, you temper your expectations, because we all have our favorites. And I thought the Chris Nolan, I'm not sure how you guys felt about it, but I felt like the Chris Nolan trilogy was very difficult to match, in terms of.
Yeah, especially the second one with the Joker, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's still going to be a difficult. I don't know, even the current actor who they have playing the Joker within the Matt Reeves universe, who I actually love as an actor. I'm like, those are big shoes. Those are really big shoes. I don't think Jared got it. I think Jared's an amazing actor, but I don't think he really nailed that. You know what I mean? And I really, really, there was elements about this film that I really enjoyed. I talk about it all once in a while, how Batman's entrance into the film is not bashing through a window or swinging in. He literally walks into the room, and he walks into the room on several occasions where you're like, you just hear his footsteps, and he just walks right in, and you go, okay, and then he just whoops some ass. But I mean,
That's a good point, though. You know what? I never thought of that. But now looking back, he walks into the police station, and it's like, and it kind of gives you the angle that, okay, whoa, this is early Batman.
Yeah.
He's just walking into places where, you know, the further Batman goes, he wouldn't just walk into place. You know, it wouldn't be like that. But yeah, it's just, I'm Batman. Get out of my way. Here I am.
Yeah.
I never thought of that, though, Todd. That's a great point. Good one.
That's actually one of the first things I kind of noticed when I, you know, because that first scene where he walks in, those guys are, you know, the gang is beating up that dude or whatever's happening. And you hear his footsteps. He shows up. He's wearing essentially armor. You know, I mean, like, it's kind of like a lot of these things. What I always find entertaining, because, you know, as you know, Batman, I believe, just you know, had a bit of a birthday. Superman did too, or I'm not really sure. But, you know, we're talking about like things that were created in the late 30s. You know, and the idea of men wearing spandex and flying around, or, you know, whatever they're doing, you know, at a time when, you know, the innocence of the time would have been like, yeah, this guy shows up dressed as a bat and fights bad guys, you know, and then you have to kind of adapt this. And we have all lived through multiple adaptations of these guys over the years, where you have to kind of find ways to make this, how would this actually happen? Like, I remember having long discussions when the Tim Burton film came out in '89. You know, there was all kinds of discussions on, you know, and it was great to be a kid and watch them having very big discussions on talk shows, talking about, like, what kind of person would do this? What kind of person would and in a lot of ways, I'm always surprised that this doesn't happen more, that there hasn't been some guy somewhere who has thrown on a mask and gone out and fought crime. And you know, and as a fan, you're like, yeah, it's a very specific thing. And the Batman character, as is, you know, invested as I am, it has so many levels to it, you know, and so many levels where, in fact, you get the impression that Bruce Wayne is the character, is the thing he plays. Batman is who he actually is in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Like, and I've always felt like that. I don't know. I don't remember if it was the animated series or one of the other animated series, but you would hear Bruce Wayne when he was just chilling with Alfred, and he would talk like this. Well, actually, Alfred, you know, and then he'd go and be Bruce Wayne, like, hey, what's going on? You know, and you realize, and to me, I was like, wow, that says a lot that this, you know, the costume is Bruce Wayne, you know, in a lot of ways. Like, the Batman character is actually kind of more like he's found himself by doing this insane thing. But the film in general, like, I thought Zoe was great. I think Zoe actually kind of represents a lot of the kind of reboot of what they did to Catwoman later on, and some of that stuff with the, you know, Totoro as Falcone and all that kind of stuff was so cool. And I mean, I did not know what to expect, honestly, when I went into it. I saw the, you know, the trailers and I saw the pictures, and I'm like, I mean, Colin is an amazing actor, but I really like what he did. I don't know if you probably spent time with Gotham, the series, and all that. Yep, which I thought was fantastic, you know. And a lot of my friends were kind of like, dude, this might be one of the best interpretations. And I go, but then in seeing this, I just thought, wow, they really kind of nailed. And you love seeing that kind of early aspect of Pattinson being like, I mean, it's supposed to be like a mid to late 20s Batman.
Yeah,
he's only been doing it a couple of years, maybe. He's somehow managed to kind of like build a relationship with Jim Gordon, and Jim Gordon trusts him now because of a couple of things that have kind of, we're not really 100% sure what happened, but that he kind of trusts this guy, that he's got a pretty good insight on things, you know. And I love that stuff, you know. I love that somebody cares enough to put this kind of you know, this kind of attention to detail, and why would this kind of stuff happen? Why would any of this happen? Because it's so much, you know, when you talk about it and you sit back and you go, it's not even a real city, you know. It's kind of like, you know, it's not New York. Like, the Marvel universe gets to win because New York is a place, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But I think the mythology of what Batman is, to me, is so much of the beauty of it. I thought the Riddler, I think his name escapes me, the actor, but he's fantastic.
Yeah, I have a hard time remembering as well. What did you think of Gotham? What did you think of the way he represented Gotham City, like that representation of this new Gotham kind of thing?
I wasn't mad at it. I thought it was very interesting that it's raining all the time.
Yeah, right.
It's very sort of, you know, uninviting, not very welcoming. I think that, you know, I think you have to be careful, because we all love Tim Burton's representation, and the whole full Gothic experience of it was so it's so great to look back on. But it's funny to see like how cartoony that is now, considering how realistic we thought it was to see this characters in a realistic setting. But to look back on it now, it just seems so crazy.
Yeah.
But that said, again, the Chris Nolan universe is very difficult to, for me, was the big challenge. And I have to admit, I walked out of there the first time just going like, wow, I really enjoyed that. Like I really had no other words other than like, I enjoyed, because I'm not really invested in, over the years I've watched Pattinson in The Lighthouse and stuff like that really kind of win me over, because all I knew was he was the kid from that thing. He's the guy, he's the vampire kid. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really watch those things. But he's a fantastic actor, and I think that he represents that early chapter that we're witnessing. And I think that's part of the fun of this whole thing is just witnessing it all in real time.
Would this have worked if as a Affleck? He's a little older, but he can.
I gotta be honest with you. I was never mad at Ben.
No, he's definitely he's definitely the Dark Knight, though. He's not 100%. The Vengeance, right? Yeah. I love the way they pointed out that he's, excuse me. So Alfred is like, you can see Alfred's just coming to terms with what's happening here. He's like, Bruce, you're Batman more than you're Bruce now. Just saying. Yeah. And Bruce is like, yeah, so what? And then he'll say, well, okay, I'm going out to this soiree or whatever. And Alfred's like, well, you're finally going out. He goes, yeah, I'm going out to learn stuff as Batman. So, and you can see it's coming to that point where he can't go back. He's Batman. I imagine once you start doing something, there's always that spot where you're like, wow, this is freaking dangerous. I could stop doing this now. I think he's at the point where his brain's saying, you know what? No, we're more Batman than Bruce Wayne now. His one family member is noticing it. And his actions are coming out to play. Now, Todd, here's one thing that I noticed, Todd. Give me your opinion on this. He didn't have any projectiles, anything shooting out of his hand. He only had one big batarang. That, to me, seemed a little odd. I thought that the Batman would have had some projectiles right off the beginning. What do you think of that?
I think that Matt was pretty smart in giving him somewhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to, like I said, he's crashing through the skylight and he's, all that stuff. It's like, I mean, even like seeing the kind of flying squirrel suit or whatever the hell he pulled off was almost kind of like, it was the most cartoony moment in the film, and it didn't take me out of it, but I thought like, oh, okay, I guess you got to kind of push these buttons for the audience to kind of go, oh, cool, because the car was bitching. Like I remember seeing the trailer and going like, so what? He just took an old Charger and just kind of whatever it was, and then you kind of go like, but yeah, he, like you say, like Alfred. This is very early days. Like it's almost like an experiment where it's kind of like, and I kind of equate it, and I've said this before when about his character is like, it's as if, as a musician, I kind of look at it like this. It's as if he was Bruce Wayne and he picked up a guitar and realized, oh, I can't, because the way we as musicians, as kids, and I'm sure you as an artist or whatever, you pick up that thing and it just opens up a whole side of yourself. And I think that in a lot of ways, to me, I've always thought Bruce, he had his own reasons for doing what he does, but he really found his purpose. He found what he was meant to do. And I think that kind of changed everything. And it's nuts and it's, insane. And people who care about him, like Alfred, would be like, this, you shouldn't be doing this. This is madness. But I mean, and he sort of like, he leaned into it and this is who he is now. And eventually they all kind of, because these are the kind of conversations that me and my friends would be having at like 11 years old, like, but when you see it on film, you go, I'm glad somebody else has been thinking about this. Yeah, that, it's like, that because these are films about these characters that are meant to be, there's a certain degree of like, is it believable? Is it meant to be set in the real world? And clearly it's ridiculous in its own way, but you, like I said, he walked into the room dressed in a weird bat armor. I'd be terrified of that guy too. Who the hell is this guy? Like,
right. Check this clip out we got from, I think this is when he gets introed. Check this out.
All these years, you lied to me, Alfred. We all have our scars, Bruce. You're still away.
He's involved in this?
No, he's not involved.
How do you know? He's a vigilante.
Who are you under there?
What are you hiding?
Selena, don't throw your life away.
Don't worry, honey. I got 9 of them.
It can be cruel, poetic, or blind. But when it's denied, it's through violence you may find
Justice. The answer's justice.
So yeah. I mean, it's such a good highlight. I like the Madison Square Garden bit at the end. For me personally, I thought that was rad.
That was nuts.
You know,
actually, the story itself, like that whole like the almost Chinatown type story to it, was actually very, very smart. I thought, like, there you go. It's not just. I mean, obviously, it's the Riddler has, done all these things, and it leads to this sort of thing. It's
Didn't
in
they
classic
learn
form.
from the Bane experiment, though?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come get you, man. It's all over for you.
What did he say?
It's
like
I'm one of those people that I love Tom Hardy in that. I don't know why that character just scratched me where I itch. But
You may die now.
yeah, exactly. What a lovely, lovely voice. He's always like just the best. I'm like, I mean, and as hardcore fans, you always have these things of like, well, technically he's supposed to be Mexican. You can't help but be like invested in these stories for so long that you're kind of like, well, and that's part of the thing of watching any of these films, and probably part of the charm of part of the watching anything that is a film made from a book or any source material, where you're like, because they make changes and you kind of like, if they lose you, they lose you. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like, and we've all seen movies that were books and we go like, nah. But, if they do it right, Lord of the Rings or whatever books you're talking about, Hitchhiker's Guide, it's a million books that were like massively successful books for like millions of years before they were ever made into films. But I take this stuff just as seriously. Like, that's kind of how much of a invested I am into all this stuff, whether it's Moon Knight or, any of that stuff. It's like, like we live in a day and age where there's a Moon Knight series. It's like,
Are you watching that?
Oh yeah.
So what do you think? Because that is some complex storytelling. So
really
my
is.
wife doesn't know anything about Moon Knight, and she was asking questions. Like, you know what? I said, let's just watch the show. So she went in not knowing anything about Moon Knight, and she's just after the first episode, she's like, she loved it. She's like, what the fuck? What is going on here? I said, well, just wait till the next episode. So what do you think of? I love it. Like, it's one of those titles that I thought, if it's done properly, there's some massive storytelling. What are you thinking of it, Todd?
I love it. I mean, I'm one of those guys. It's like, I have plenty of friends who are suffering from superhero fatigue, and the whole thing, and people are starting to kind of like another one, or any of that kind of talk. And I'm like, dude, bring it on.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of, like I say, we live in a day and age where I never would have guessed in a million years there'd be a Moon Knight live action representation. I think it's a very complex and very, it's a very, like you said, a very difficult story to tell. But I think they're doing such. I love Oscar Isaac, by the way. I think he's like, I think I first saw him in like Ex Machina, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so.
I remember
that's where I first saw him.
Yeah, I remember thinking this guy is amazing,
and you weren't a fan, Chris, in Star Wars.
No, I don't like his character. I thought the Poe Dameron character was a wasted character. I just thought that it's like he didn't do anything. There was no layers to his character. They should have killed him off, and then you would have cared for him.
That's a whole other conversation.
No problem.
I felt the same way. I kind of like, Oscar Isaac's in this, and the other dude from Ex Machina, the ginger-haired guy, he was in the First Order or whatever. He was actually that guy. So I'm like, wow. They got some killer people in this movie, and then you're like, oh, that's kind of it's rarely the actor's fault, unfortunately. Yeah. Hayden Christensen has had to pay that price for years,
I know, right? Yeah. No, I just didn't like the Poe. That's a whole other thing. But then Moon Knight, man, he's playing as an actor job in Moon Knight.
I mean, he's amazing, and I have friends every once in a while somebody will say something about his English accent. I go, actually, I'm pretty impressed. I consider myself kind of a nerd for. I'm one of those guys that I was watching something. My wife and I we love all the crime dramas, English crime dramas specifically. I don't know why.
My wife does as well.
And I go, that girl is from Nottingham. My wife goes, what? I go, and I had to look her up. Find the actress, and I go, Nottingham. I'm getting good. Like, I've been to Europe.
Well, you travel, right? Like you talk to these people first. You get the slang and everything from them.
Yeah,
right?
You start to pick up on like the Leeds accent, the Manchester accent, like that kind of thing. And they're very specific. I'm currently watching Steve Merchant's new show from Bristol, and it's like, well, that's a whole other thing. But and I sort of go, I don't know. I think he's doing an amazing job at the Steven character, as with the full English accent. But it's so much more involved, and I think that it's been really interesting watching the whole thing play out. I actually think Ethan Hawke is great. I think he's doing a great job. It's one of those stories where it's like, it's so. If you cannot suspend your disbelief into that sort of like, wait a second, they're Egyptian gods, they'll lose you immediately, And I'm kind of like, no, of course they are. But I mean, we've been dealing with this with the Eternals or Guardians or any of the things where we're starting to get into the Celestials and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
the Marvel universe is so vast that way that it's if you're not into it, then don't bother.
Yeah. Did you see the Eternals?
Yeah. I did.
Okay, so when I saw
actually.
it, I love the Eternals. The thing I like about the Eternals the most is the creator, Jack Kirby. It's pure Kirby, right? Pure Kirby.
Of course.
Now, it's funny because I watched the movie and the stuff where they kept it original, I was loving. Yeah. And then they added the new kind of today stuff in there, and it was kind of losing me a bit. And I really wish they would have just focused on the history of it, the whole ancient alien side of it. You know what I mean? I felt they tried to do way too much with it, and it just. I don't know. I think Jack Kirby is somewhere going, oh, guys, I can't do a New York accent.
Yeah.
If somebody can do a New York accent, oh, guys, you got it all wrong. That's what Jack would have said.
Well, I think it's one of those.
What is this pile of shit you're putting on the film there?
I don't think he would have been that offended. But
it was just would have been a lot more harsh about it,
It was I just thought that there were some elements, if they would have just focused on those more, it would have been so much better. They lost me a bit, and I was pumping it on here so much. But
it's getting to be like, that is such a big swing. I mean, if we would have had this conversation last year or 2 years ago, before there was an Eternals movie, we'd be like, they're gonna make an Eternals movie? Damn, dude. Like, that's like, I was already like the Guardians was such a surprise left field kind of like that they pulled that off. But the Eternals needed a similar, just visionary to make those work. And I think that's why that's a whole other conversation versus Zack Snyder or any of the other people that are like, to me, it's like either you kind of have a vision that people kind of grasp onto or you don't. And I think I love the Eternals for what it was, but I will admit that it was, if I had to rate it on where it is on the list of all those movies, it's like it's at the bottom for me.
Yeah. And it could have been so important. It could have explained the Infinity Gem. It could have explained Thanos. What's that?
Chris, no one hyped up that movie more than you, and I mean that in a respectful way. you were like, dude, this is it. It's
because it could have answered so many questions. When I talk to people who are getting like even mid-range Marvel enthusiasts are like, well, where did this come from? And what's with Thanos? He's from the whole Eternal universe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why didn't they? The fact that they didn't even. Sorry. I could go on
a lot of missed opportunities there.
Yes. I think if they would have just focused on the history of it and not jump back and forth, we would have been good. I think that's because I could get away with just watching the historic part of it. You know what I mean?
But that's part of the thing that's going to happen when you're taking these broad of swings and you're starting to really step outside of, I mean, to be honest, when we really look back on it, whether it was Spider-Man or Hulk, when you start talking about Iron Man, you're already in the woods. You know what I mean? Like the average person, the fact that Iron Man was the big fucking rock star in this thing is already nuts. Like from the beginning, I remember thinking like, wow, they've turned Iron Man into the rock star. Like it's kind of like where Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Question about that though. Did I understand that it turned Iron Man into the rock star? But was it Robert Downey Jr. that made it? Because they're talking about Tom Cruise playing Iron Man.
Yeah, the future, in
the variant or whatever.
Yeah,
he's
kind of like an evil Iron Man.
I mean, I'm fine with Tom Cruise, but I mean, a lot of people aren't. But I mean, that's a tough one. That's why I think the Robert Pattinson thing worked really well, because you just come out of this madness of the Batman, and then you got this new kid, not new, but you got this kid. What? He's the Batman? Yeah. Okay. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man? What?
Well, I was blown away by that too, because if I was to go back to like 15-year-old Chris, who's, I was into comics when they're the era of the stories that are being told now. Yeah, I don't know. It's there's so many other. I would have thought Wolverine would be the biggest hero ever. Like,
Yeah.
And I probably would have thought the Captain America would have hit heavier than Iron Man. You know what I mean? I liked Iron Man. But it was just like, okay, he was a playboy, he was Iron Man, and there was nothing wrong with it. But there was other characters that had so much more going on. Wolverine was one that I think is going to come soon. That is going to just he's going to be the new great big. I think he's going to be the next big deal. Now, on that subject, I don't know if we must have talked about this, Todd, but who do you want to play Wolverine?
Oh man, I mean, I was going to, comment on this sort of stunt casting that's been going on.
Yes.
Like a Tom Cruise. I mean, obviously Robert was a Downey, just like it's all Downey, really, honestly, like that. I can't imagine anybody else really being able to pull off what he pulled off, and so much of it is just because he's so likable and so amazing at that character. And I think that, when you get into this kind of stuff, in a perfect world, Hugh Jackman would play it. I hate to say it,
right.
But, and this stunt casting thing that's been happening within the multiverse and bringing Andrew Lincoln or Tobey Maguire and getting, and same things happening in the Flash movie with Michael Keaton coming back and all that kind of stuff where you're like, or they even did it in the CW, Flashpoint kind of crossover stuff where they were bringing in the Smallville people and everything. And you're kind of like, it's so much fun, but at the same time, that's a big swing. Like to replace Hugh Jackman, it's going to have to be done right. And frankly, I wonder if it has to be done with somebody that maybe we're not as familiar with in an unknown,
buddy. Yeah.
Like, or at least somebody who's kind of up and coming that we kind of go, oh, that's that kid from that thing. You know what I mean? Henry Cavill would have been great, if he wasn't Superman, or something like that. It's a tough one. That's a very difficult conversation because Hugh is
so good at it, right? It's too bad he wasn't behind like the good continuity that Marvel had going on. And like from the beginning, that would have been amazing.
I mean, within a multiverse kind of thing, it works. He can show up and be like random, like Deadpool kind of like, no way. But but
Old Man Logan could come on the scene, right?
Totally.
See, I still think, and I'll say Daniel Radcliffe. I would love to see him get a trainer, get worked into it, and just be a young Wolverine. I still think that would be great.
But don't you find it funny? Because when we were kids, I remember like my friends all sort of like dream casting. Harvey Keitel was our big go-to.
In the 90s, right?
Because he's supposed to be stocky and kind of small.
He's got to be shorter, dude. That's the
Hugh Jackman, like as a nerd going to those films, it was kind of like, okay, suspend my disbelief. Let's see what and you fall in love with the guy because he's amazing. But it's very difficult to imagine anybody else in that role. It's just simply because I don't know, like I don't know why we're so. I think because it's all these reboots happening. As far as like we can.
How many people played Batman? There's only been one Wolverine, right?
We can watch Pattinson take over Batman because he's in a whole new thing. It's not like we're suddenly seeing. I don't know, like. I know that the continuity is all different, so you have to kind of forgive that. But I'm sure they'll find the right guy. I'm sure they'll find somebody cool, and away we go.
It's an exciting one. Everybody's waiting to see that.
Oh, that and the Fantastic Four is
how about
waiting for that to be finally done right. Go ahead.
How about this one? Well, how about this one for excitement?
Oh, I'm so stoked for this. Some Vader action.
Oh God.
Yeah.
This is. I mean, I am so thrilled that. Ewan. I can't imagine this without him.
No, he's awesome, dude.
But he is Obi-Wan Kenobi now, and I think that, it's a funny thing. We've all our whole life talked about like, so what happened between, for all those years in between, like when he drops off Luke Skywalker to Uncle Ben Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and then like, then what? What happens then? And he's like, and then he goes off into the desert hiding under the suspicious, I'll change my name from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Ben Kenobi. No one will ever find me then. Yeah. But I'm really excited. And the fact that Hayden Christensen is involved, I think that's such a, it's so funny to have been like, relatively not that thrilled with those films back in the day. Mm-hmm. But maintaining the continuity of that whole thing, I'm very excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah. And Hayden Christensen, have you ever met him?
Never. He's one of ours, though.
Yeah, well, he bought
he's Ontario.
He bought a farm right by where he used to live in Port Perry. I don't know if I mentioned this to you before.
No way.
And my students, I had a couple students come in and like, I saw Darth Vader at the feed store in Uxbridge. It's like, what do you mean you saw Darth Vader? He says, well, Hayden Christensen is like,
you saw some guy dressed as Darth Vader? Or,
yeah, you know what I mean? That's some of my students.
That's just really a Monday in Uxbridge.
Yeah. He owns a farm in Uxbridge. and he would go to the feed store all the time and pick up his stuff. And even the dad was like, "Yeah, he was a really nice guy, Chris." You know, it's like, "Oh, very cool." So he was like
cool.
20 minutes away from me in Port Perry, which was rad. But I was just because I felt really bad for him because he got crapped on because of the earlier movies, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him as well. Todd, I was mentioning to Brent before that I think Darth Vader is the most untapped character in the Star Wars franchise, and there's so much we could learn about him during his first days of being taken into being Darth Vader, because him and the Emperor didn't get along, right? The Emperor was like treating him like crap. So I was saying to Brent that he is probably the most untapped character in the Star Wars universe, and hopefully we're going to see the beginning of it.
I will admit, there's no matter what, and this is just me being fearful, because you worry about Marvel going too far, or like when they hit that misstep, and I'm starting to kind of get nervous about because Mandalorian was so great, and Boba Fett is awesome, and then you're when they announced like a million different titles, all of a sudden you're like, whoa. It's kind of like, just because you got one great series happening, I think we have to I'm just hoping there's as much focus and love being put into these things that Favreau, if they've got someone like Favreau, I'm assuming Favreau's involved, but I just get a little nervous. But I do know that, like, you're absolutely correct. The Darth Vader character is unmined territory. It's all gold. And I think that I do get nervous that, okay, well, let's just do it right. And that's just me being like suspicious, kind of like, okay, well, I'm very excited to see how this goes, because it's one of those questions I've always had. Even since I was a child, I remember thinking like, the images in my mind of him showing up, making that sand people noise, and the sand people guys, or whatever they all run away, and this creature comes out of the desert in his robe. You can't see his face, and then it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Alec Guinness, and you're like, so, and now we're about to be told this is what he's been doing all these years, and you're like, wow. Especially
the first is, who is this guy? Where's he been? And what did he do?
Well, and it's always funny in the retelling of it now, because all that stuff where he goes like, oh, that's a name I haven't heard from, because now in our perception of what we know was happening, we didn't know it was happening at the time. We just know that Ben Kenobi is some guy, and he knew his father at one time, and now it's all kind of like, well, you cut his father down with a lightsaber. It's like, but I don't know if that was really like meant to be. I don't think George ever foresaw it being as far-reaching as it is. How could he?
No.
We're gonna learn real quick that he turns out he was not a roulette dealer on Tatooine, just killing time in the cantina.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
just sipping drinks at the cantina, chatting up chicks. Like, no, that's
Todd. You just did the tour, supporting this record here. Before we let
buddy.
you go.
And what a record it is! That's some rock and roll.
Touching on that a little bit, which was rad. You brought something to the table before we got on the air. Which was awesome. Yeah. But you guys just did this show with our brother Fitz.
Yes, and there he is. And there's part of him.
Yes,
part of him. There's part of him. I think he's there in the background. There he is. And all the rest of it. And you got this going on with Tuke. And
those fine gentlemen.
Super busy. But anyways, you guys just finished this up to support this record. And how was it, man? How was it being back out there?
It was great. Honestly, I think that, a big part of it is just being able to be back playing in front of people is a massive, like, just the audience was so gung-ho, and people kept saying stuff to us like, I think this is the best you guys have ever played, and I'm kind of like, and you take it as a compliment, but you kind of feel like, does that mean we were terrible before? I mean, it's sort of a mixture of how much people just are so excited to be out seeing shows again, and we're out there, doing what we do, and people said, you look like you guys are having so much fun. I mean, yeah, we are. We really do enjoy each other's company. Really enjoy making music together and being out there. And it was really a pleasure to be able to get out there, play, in front of all those faces and all those people, and just it was awesome. It was all too brief, but it was really great to be able to do it.
It's been a long time since anybody's rock and rolled, man. So I imagine the vibe was good.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was very sort of surreal. Like we'd all been kind of like doing stuff. Like there had been sort of shows and whatnot happening, but the actual like, let's get on a bus together and travel around the country and do that thing. It was a little weird because we were in bubbles, and you'd head into towns and go like, I wish I could see you, dude, like your friend in Seattle or Portland or
right?
wherever. But,
Like me in Minneapolis.
Exactly. Like, yeah,
Four
we couldn't
Yeah.
blocks away from you. Hi,
we
guys.
couldn't even see you. It was
way
like,
over
yeah.
there. See ya. Yeah,
we could probably see each other like this, but that would probably be about it.
Yeah, that's
so.
funny.
I mean, that has sort of gone, the way of the dodo. Now we are all sort of, back to reality. But of course, now we're back to reality, and I'm home. I'm off the road.
Classic way it goes.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Chris is going to be starting a new series coming up here. I'll let you go, Todd, before we let you get out here. But Chris is going to be starting a new series within the show, but then on the weekends and all the rest of it, where he's going to deal with some of his favorite conspiracy theories and starting with it. So
I love conspiracy
Before
theories.
we let you out of here, is there a conspiracy theory that you particularly are fond of? You're like, oh, I like this. I like this. I like this one more than anything.
What's your favorite, man?
You're just around the corner.
What one piques your interest the most? You know what I like? There's the moon. There's the ancient aliens. There's the Kennedy thing. There's there's the COVID thing. There's so many.
It's quite mind-boggling, actually, because I have been to the Kennedy thing is a really good one that you bring up, because we went to Dallas and Fitz and I went down, and it's so weird when you're standing there, when you've seen that 8mm or 60mm, and you're like standing there and you just go, and it's kind of heavy. Like, obviously it's very heavy.
Yeah.
And you look around and you're like, this has never been solved. Like, you're kind of like, it's probably been solved. We just don't know what the hell's going on. And then we go up in the book depository, which is now a museum, right?
Yeah.
And every floor is like a whole thing. And there's like, you're experiencing this whole thing. And then you get up there and you see a cordoned off like a plexiglass type area where they have set up like what it would have looked like, which is kind of more like a story. It's really creepy.
Is this a tour or did you?
It is.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
You have to check it out. It's like there's a and they have it sort of set up like it seemed like that top area was more like a stock room perhaps. And there's a rifle leaning against the window. Like, you're just kind of like, and it's just sort of like, this is where he was. And then you kind of look out and you go like, I guess this could happen. But the really crazy part is this, dude. Like, so I spend my whole day, because that's the whole thing,
Yeah.
And then I went home and I was like, I immediately go on Netflix, JFK, boom.
Yes.
Kevin Costner. So I sat there in my hotel room.
Yes.
And it was just so heavy. Like, the whole experience was so heavy that someone texted and said, hey, dude, they're playing this the Lemmy documentary down in this theater in town. And I go, oh, thank you. Let's go immediately. Because I'm so like just weighed down.
Information.
And it's dark and it's heavy. And you watch the film where it's kind of like, dude, what the hell happened here? Yeah. And then here's the crazy thing. I walk into the theater. It's a cool old theater. I love it. I wish I could remember the name of it. Walk in and we're looking for somewhere to sit. And on one of the seats, there's a plaque that says, this is the seat where I guess Lee Harvey Oswald. He had run into the movie theater.
Yes.
And he was arrested in this theater. And I go, I cannot get away from this goddamn thing.
That's hilarious, man.
So
you were meant to solve the case. So a heavy vibe, though, huh? You caught a heavy vibe off of being there.
Oh, very much. And now every time, and there's been a few times where we've gone back, and Frank had not been there before. So one time we were in Dallas and, playing a gig, and I just literally, I pulled up my phone and just, hey, it's only like a 20-minute walk. You want to go there? And he goes, yeah, I've never been there. So we walk over there. Same thing. We didn't do the depository at the museum that they have now, but it was like, it's just heavy, because it's a gnarly day, and not just a politician being killed, but a whole dream of an alternate universe that didn't get to happen, So it's pretty heavy. Yeah. It was very heavy, but that's not when it comes to conspiracy. I'm such a I love I'm always entertained by flat Earth stuff. I follow quite a few flat Earth friends that are kind of like, and I'm always just I just can't imagine being this invested in like anything. I don't feel like it's like this is the hill you want to die on. Like, I just feel like, first of all, who cares in a funny way, but it's just kind of like, as Bill Burr puts it, my whole life, the world was round, and all of a sudden, like in the last few years now, this is a conversation, but I'm entertained by it nonetheless. I love hearing about it. Like, please tell me more of this, kind of like.
And he loves a good conspiracy theory too, right? That guy.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He does. I saw I think it was probably on TikTok I saw, but he was so loving the whole COVID thing and the conspiracy series about. He was on talk shows. Oh, here, I want some more, man. What do we got? This is great.
I know. And I find all that kind of so crazy too, because it's like, it's a funny thing being in North America or whatever, because we feel so like, it's a sense of narcissism that everything that's happening is just to us. We're all, and you go, but I don't think that, you know how involved it would be to organize the entire planet to go along with this entire thing? I'm like, whatever. I'm open to it though. Like, please.
Just give it 10 minutes after this show airs, Todd. We'll get all the theories that we need to go.
This is, I can't wait. I'm so excited about it, because I want to get some people that are really diving into this stuff and chat. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Todd, why don't you show us that Ghetto Blaster before we leave?
Oh yeah, right. I just put it down.
And that Stan Lee, dude. That Stan Lee was nice.
Yeah, I know. I went into there's a great place here in town called Brad's Toys.
There you go.
And they are like an epic store. But when you walk in and you see Amigo of, I have a million Migos over there, but of dude, Stan Lee, you're like, and he's even got like the kind of like heavy metal like Spider-Man hands in.
He's got the going on there. Because whenever he poses for a picture, hey, look, everybody's I think that's what we're doing in the picture I have with him is the Spider.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And then we did the run of the Gibson Guitars was our record company on the new Slash record, and they were so inventive on the different things they would use to promote the record that they came up with this boombox. You can see the SMKC4 on there. And now I feel like John, what's his name in
John Cusack?
John Cusack in Say Anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing because we put out, it came out on this, so it kind of only made sense that we should have the album playable. But it's been really entertaining for me because I haven't had a cassette player in a million years, and I was telling you guys,
what did you find?
I came across old Age of Electric demos and stuff like that, and demos and I assume just mixes. Like, here's something. MCA Records was at some point involved in. This is all
hey, Brian Heatherman.
The latest Bleg, exactly. And
wow,
MCA Records,
dude.
I'm like that. I'm confused as to why we were never really signed to MCA, but they might have been using that as some
Universal,
sort of
When was the last
shopping.
when was the last time you heard what is on those tapes?
Well, it's got to be 20 years or something like that.
Wow.
In about 7 minutes, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I've literally have come across things on CD or cassette, pressed play, sat there listening as if I'd never heard the song before in my life, and realizing partway through, going, "Hey, that's my voice." We actually put like effort into this. We spent time putting it together. We went down to a studio, loaded gear in, pressed record, and recorded this entire thing. And I don't remember any of this. It's as if I'm hearing a song for the first time in my life. It's
awesome.
Very strange. But
what does that feel like? What's that like?
It's surreal. It feels it kind of feels like you're Mark Spector or something.
Moon Knight, yeah. I love it. That's a great analogy.
Todd talks all about it next week on the Brenton on Tour podcast about touring sober and what and the things you forget.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. I may not have been sober at the time. Maybe that's part of it. Not remembering.
Capricious youth, my friend.
Yeah, capricious all the way.
Todd, man, I appreciate the time, dude. So awesome to see you come back. Hope you're excited. We'll let you get out of here. I hope you're as excited about us about this coming up. We know you're going to be excited about. We know you were excited about that.
Stoked. Yeah,
you're stoked about this. So when all this stuff fires back up again, man, we'd love to have you back.
Dude, just
I'm in.
Let us know whenever you're available. Whenever you're not out rocking the free world, my friend.
I'm generally always available for you guys.
I love to hear that. Thanks.
Check your mailbox soon because I'm pretty sure one of these is on the way here. So
yeah, look, there's my new issue, buddy. We'll send you
killer, man. I'm so excited for everything you're doing. I love it all. It's amazing. Dude.
Well, we got to get them out to you and get you caught up on that. It's we're moving and shaking.
Please.
Thanks,
all right,
buddy.
dudes. Big
Enjoy
love.
your night, brother.
Take care out there. You too.
Bye-bye.
See you, Todd. Hey, what a gentleman that guy is. He's awesome.
Gentleman, he's done 2 podcasts today with this asshole. So that's a lot of patience on that guy. So thanks, Todd.
You know what's funny with the little bit of the beard going on there, man? If he had blonde hair, I think he would have looked like Shawn Michaels. Seriously, I was it was funny because it just hit me when he left. I was like, he's reminding me, because I've never seen him with the beard stubble going on. And I was like, so we're gonna have to get a picture of him from the podcast and put Shawn Michaels beside.
We were talking about it, yeah.
It hit me just when it was Shawn Michaels.
So you had a great weekend, man. You sent me
I
some
did,
stuff
buddy.
here to post up on here. So you did this. You did the SPT or the workshop today, but you did the Kingston Comic-Con, which happened April 24th. And man, I'll just start showing some pics. That's you and Lenny.
Yeah, we're the
you guys
owners. That's my wife and I, and we're in the
Yeah.
Marvel section there with David Day.
There you are, and then there you are, right
There's
there.
me with David
So
Day. What a great guy.
what's a Marvel? Define a Marvel section. What does a Marvel section mean?
Well, that's where for artists who have worked on Marvel Comics or DC
Right.
Comics. That's where we go. There's only two of us.
Yeah, there you go.
In the show, and that's where we went. Was right there, man. Yeah, you know what I mean. And there's my comic with a little dude there, little Spider-Man. His mom bought the comic book, so I got a picture with him. And there's more. There's me and David Day again. And the guys, like, so if you there's a girl dressed up like Moon Knight about the comic book. So lots of cool cosplay. Now this was interesting. Now this person did not talk to anybody. They had a little box in their hand, and when somebody would talk to them, they would press the button and would go, "Look at that, Houdini," and then they would look at you, and it's like, so they like totally bought into their character. It was
Went all
great.
the
Like
way
they
in.
didn't talk. This person didn't talk to anybody. Like they hit this button and went, wait. But they would come up to people and try and talk to them. This person would.
Yeah.
It was they bought in, man. It was great. So so David Day there.
Yeah.
He was beside me there, and of course he comes in with the Kiss shirt on. I'm like, all right, we're gonna get along just fine. So this is gonna escalate to another Kiss conversation because that's what we did. And it was funny too because this was my first Comic-Con being Beans, get out. This was my first Comic-Con being in Artist Alley, being an artist there, right? And you get some people that come up to you that, you know, there was one gentleman there that I think he pooped his pants. And he came up, he was lingering at our table.
Yeah.
And David was like, "Hey man, blah 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 blah," and got my attention. And dude kind of walked away, and he was like, and I was like, "Thank you." And he goes, "Yeah, man, don't worry, man, it happens." So, but he's been doing it for a long time. He's a little older than me, and his whole family has been doing Marvel work. You know, Danny Day also is another great big Marvel artist who I have some of his work in the other room there. I should have brought it up.
I was going to say, do you have the work that this guy's done?
Oh yeah, I just got home from a workshop.
Yeah,
I didn't have time to really show any of his work, but it's behind him there on the wall. You can see in the picture, all his covers and work he's done, and he's done some magic cards and stuff, which is great. But it just is, aside from all that, just being my first Comic-Con and hanging out with Marvel artists, and not just hanging out with the Marvel artists of the show, getting along with him like amazingly.
Mm-hmm.
We just started talking about Kiss. It was like boom, Kiss. My logo for, as we discussed earlier, for my comic company, we have the Kiss logo from the Kiss Army, man. He's just we're making jokes to other people beside each other, and we're kind of he's getting them and I'm getting them, and they're old jokes, you know what I mean? $2, from the old movies and stuff like that. So anyway, I was walking around and I saw this Kiss DVD game, and I come back to David and I was like, "Hey man, I just saw this Kiss DVD game for $20. Let's see if anybody," and I look up and there's a guy walking with it.
He's got
and
it.
We're like, "Oh my God, buddy, come here. And he's like, "Oh, what? And it's like, you bought that? You bought the Kiss DVD?" Well, yes. He was he was a little defensive first. Then once we settled in, he was like, "Yeah, look at this. It was $20." So David Day and I just bonded over Kiss. And right before the podcast, I just got home from a workshop, and I just saw him on Facebook there, hit him up and said, "Hey man," and just he's sending me pictures that he's done. We're gonna go out for a beer next week.
Rad.
Just
that's great because like I you've got a lot of people in your life, and you teach a lot of people things, and people come and go and all the rest of it. But I always think it's like you could choose to be alone there in Kingston, do your thing, teach the kids, and have your market and all the rest of it. But it's so good to always have somebody that has something exactly the same in common with you in the area that you get along with, because now you can bounce ideas and something's going to come out. There's no way that something's not going to come out of it.
Well, he already hooked me up with Topps Trading Cards Magic series. So I'm gonna send him a couple. Let him know. He said to drop his anyway. Exactly. He hooked me up with something there, which is really.
I think it's amazing because you've got we got our buddy Mark there, and we the history in that town with Zig, and so Kingston holds a very, very great part of us there, which is great and is always fun to go. But now you've done your first Comic-Con, and now there's somebody in your town. It's not like he lives in London or he lives in Belleville or he lives 2 hours away. He's there with
probably
you.
about 15 minutes up the way there.
Yeah. So now you got somebody that's like not just a music, somebody that's, I could move there and we'd have music in common or whatever. Mark, so you got music in common, but now you got somebody in town that knows exactly how you speak when it comes to this world.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying you've been missing, but it's
no, but
definitely
it has,
something
because as I mentioned, like he was sitting beside me at the table and I was like dropping jokes, Easter egg jokes to people I was talking to, and he was getting them. He's like elbowing me and stuff, like
he's like Zig's mixtape where you drop a song on a DJ where you're like, hey, look what he's doing. So I'm stoked for you, man.
Right? Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm stoked. So it was good. So the Comic-Con was amazing. We made good money.
Yeah,
we did well. Issue 1 is long gone, and Dent showed up with his kids.
Oh, there you go, Rad Dent. So there you go, buddy.
Yeah, Dent showed up with his kids, and they bought a couple things. Yeah, I think they bought issue 2 and 3, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and there's Moon Knight Girl.
I love when the kids get dressed up and everything. It's really rad. So we're gonna get this.
So you can see behind him. There's the X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man. I think there's a Moon Knight right behind him there, and he does the Topps Magic cards now. And of course, as soon as he sat down beside me and took his coat off and had the Kiss shirt, I was like, there we go. It was just like, yep. And you can see Lonnie's wearing the Machete Comics Kiss shirt there.
Yeah. So think about the next Kingston panel we can have between him and Jeff, and
he's ready to go. He's ready to go on the show. Anytime I could do a segment with him, or we could. Yeah, we'll have to. Our Kingston shows are slowly going to get stronger and stronger, right?
Yeah, wicked.
I think we're going to have more and more people on there. But I think Jeff's out on tour right now. I don't know, but Jeff would be a good guy to get on here, and David Day would be a great guy to get on here, and lots of comic book stuff.
So you blasted through. Number 3 is out, which is rad.
Number 4, we're putting the text in,
which is awesome.
Yeah, so number 4 should be ready.
Flow.
It's coming back. We're getting in there now, right? Like the thing is that we had to do a lot of commissions just to pay bills, and a lot of things like that. So now that we're back, and I'm actually doing workshops, and I'm actually selling, like, we sold a lot. We sold over 100 comics yesterday, probably, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a lot of comics.
That's a lot of comics.
We probably sold up to 100, 90 to 100 comics.
Well, and considering how, it's probably was it a giant show, or was it a medium-sized show?
No, it was a smaller show. It was a smaller show.
So you're there.
It wasn't like the Ottawa Comic-Con or but it costs like $1,500 to do the
big ones.
Yeah, dude. I don't have that much money, network, but if you'd like to send me.
I know. Yes, Diener and everybody.
If the network would like to send me, I would definitely get some good footage for you.
And rock and roll.
As I say, like, the people there, dude, like, I swear somebody pooped their pants. It's just, not that that's a good thing, but it's all walks of life. I also talked to some very young adults who were so friggin' smart, dude.
Yeah.
Like, again, I like to talk about the conspiracy theories, and my comic book is it can be smart. Some of the layers and the subjects are kind of smart, and they relate to some ancient alien things, some pyramid things. And I was talking to some young adults that were picking up on the whole thing, and they were there for the day. They're hanging out, and they'd come back around and say, hey, and they'd chat some more with us. Like it's a great community. And not to hack on the music community, because I love my music community, but when I was in there, I didn't find that camaraderie. I always found that there was I don't know, somebody's talking crap around your back. It was so competitive, and it shouldn't have been. I don't know if it's just the level I was at.
Well, okay. So you're when you sell indie comics, you do a favor for every indie comic creator,
right? But how come it wasn't the same if you sell an indie song? Because it was jealousy.
bands are like, you play with bands. It's okay. I'm sure if you're sitting next to an indie comic creator, let's take David out of the equation. Let's say it's Larry Smith.
Well, they were there. They were on the other side.
Who's created Deadlatron? He's created Deadlatron, and you're like, oh. And then he's got a giant lineup, and you don't, and you're like, but my comic's better than him. But he's looking over at you, probably looking to make sure that you're getting sales, and might be pushing you over to there. Comic book artists, I would wager, when you're in the club and you draw and you create your own thing, you're kind of like looking at each other like, but not every drummer or band likes each other, or bands go, well, we're better than that band.
We don't do that. Yeah. See, here's the thing too. We're talking like David was like, wow, I like your style. You have a different style. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like examining my artwork, but it was like, you have a different style, like your style. Whereas in a band thing, it's like, you know what? Yeah, you guys sound too much like this, or you guys suck because you don't do this.
Yeah. It's totally what it is, and so it's very interesting to kind of see that. And I think you're going to have a good community there, as you discussed.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I
where
do
you're gonna have that. So
I'm really enjoying it. Like I say, if I can get some funds together to do some of the bigger cons coming up, then I think we're really going to hit the markets, man. Like I said, I got a guy that wants to do a video game for me. He's going out of a school out of Toronto, actually. But I got the email from him today, so it looks like he wants to do a video game for his final assignment. And he bought the comic books. He loves the comic books. He bought into the character. He digs the character. So I'm going to have a beer with him, and we'll see. So we might have a video game on the way. The animation thing, man, we've already got the animation started. I got to get a voiceover, and I want to talk to Todd about that again. I just need him to say a couple things, and if I could get his permission to get his voice on there, man, as Todd Kirby, I think that'd be perfect. But we all know that I want Todd on there as a voice. I think that'd be great for him to be the main character. I think that'd be awesome. And then I want, and then again, I'd love to get Mr. D from the Salads to do something on there as well. I got my musicians in my mind who I can totally pick their voices for things.
Sure.
But yeah, the animation's coming. The video game, I guess, is going to be coming on the way. We're working it, man. We're working it. And it was very uplifting to do the Comic-Con and talk to all these amazing people. And you see the people that were dressed up, man. They buy into it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
think it's rad. It's a great community, and for somebody like yourself that's, coming out with this rad stuff, and it's your own. It's a dream of yours. Everyone has their dream of being in a band and then creating music, and it's great. And then you write song and you play a song and you get it out, but that song goes away. You have it forever. I still listen to Machete stuff. I still listen to some of the demo stuff that we have because I kind of revisit. But that's really just for us. We went copper. This has the potential to go.
Well, this is my legacy, as I say.
This is your legacy. This is what it is.
Comics is my legacy.
And finding somebody like-minded in your neighborhood, especially, which is totally rad, I think is going to be very beneficial to you. And
well, it's funny because
let's get him on the show. Let's get.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I said after David said to me, he goes, "Do you work at Nexus Comics?" I was like, "No, man, I don't work." And he's like, "Oh," he's blah blah blah. He goes, "But I see you there, right?" He goes, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Yeah." I go down there and I pick up comics all the time. He's okay. Well, I've seen you there. I did. Okay, yeah, cool, man. Right? And I was like, "Yeah."
Awesome.
What's funny too is like, "No, I don't work, man. I draw comics." And again, he's like, yeah, because
hey,
and somebody was complimenting on my inking work, right? And I said, "Well, I'm not a tracer. I'm not a tracer." I was like, "Yeah,
anyone who understands."
He was just getting everything I was throwing down.
I'm sure he'll understand
conversations that. Pardon?
I'm sure he'll understand where we got the title from this podcast from.
Oh, definitely, dude. He will.
Yeah,
he will.
Yeah.
And plus, and him getting me out of conversations, he could tell that was kind of like, "Oh, I'd love to get out of this one." For after like 10 minutes has gone by, and I'm not being a jerk. It's just like
enough's enough.
Yeah, sometimes enough's enough.
I don't know how people do. I don't know how celebs do it when it's just like, because you see it more in that, like everyone fanboys out. Yeah. Like it's a funny double-edged sword, because you. Like not you, but like you go into something sort of like the rock star life and this and that. But most of the bands that I know don't want to be anywhere near anybody.
No. And so, when I was in a band, I didn't either.
You might want to, it's great to meet the fans and all the rest of it. And for every like great fan that's like, "Hey man, great show, really cool," and all the rest of it, there's 8 or there's 2 other like, "Hey, so what hotel you at? Hey, so where are you going? Let's talk about this." And it's really like, out here for hours on end. And it's like the last thing you want to do is add more people to your life. So yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. And meeting people at a Comic-Con, you want to create your fan base, but then you got guys that are all the way in, or girls that are all the way in, that are like, "So, what kind of soup do you like to eat?" Yeah,
well, it's sometimes too. You'll get you'll get a guy who draws and he's going on and on and on about his character, and I'm fine with hearing about a person's character, but when they start going on about like "Well, yeah, man, I drew like 1 page in 6 days, so that's pretty good," and I'm just like, you get to the point where you're like, "Okay, buddy, that's great, but you've talked about it for 10 minutes. Yeah. I have a comic in front of me. You haven't bought one yet." so far, I've listened to you talk
about this one.
Well, it's like so far I've listened to you for 10 minutes talk about how you're drawing this one panel and it took you 6 days. You might learn something from asking me a question or looking at my art. That's just that kind of thing.
There's more learned from asking than listening.
Right? Like instead of telling. instead of telling. But you know, I love and the other thing that I wanted to point out is the second name on there is another reason why it gets done, because Lonnie, my wife, I trust
Absolutely.
her. There she is. I trust her, and she does good work. I can, not to sound like a dick, but I can proof everything she does before it goes out. She knows how I work, so she knows how to edit my work, and we work
Yeah.
together really well. Yeah, my favorite pieces of work that I've done are my covers that I've done with my wife.
Yeah.
Just the coloring on this stuff, right?
They're all really great.
And the placement.
And she, you know, and on the flip side, you know,
Just
Lonnie did
logos.
she's done all my logos, and
Yeah,
she's done
like I
all
said-
that. She's super, super great.
So I couldn't be working with anyone that I trust more, or anybody, in my opinion, more talented that gets what I do, you know, as a colorist and as placements is doing dialogue. So that helps me out a lot. I don't have to pay somebody who I don't know. I don't have to train somebody. You know, she gets me. She's been putting up with my shit for like a long time.
Yes, she has.
Yeah, you know, you were waiting for me to say how long, weren't you?
No, I know.
Numbers.
I know how long.
Numbers. Don't know.
All right, we're gonna jet. Thanks to Todd.
I gotta have some dinner.
We still got some stuff to do for our Bucketheads friends.
Oh yes, we okay, cool. Okay, we'll do that.
So
I
our
gotta
friends
drink
from
less.
Bucketheads
Okay.
that did the thing, we're gonna do some background stuff for them. But thanks to Todd for coming on.
Yeah,
you know,
Todd.
and congrats to him and the Slash Camp and Brent and Frank and everybody for getting back out there and touring and just making the time for us to come on our show to talk about all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the Kids on the Escalator podcast for another week. Now, Chris is going to return. Chris next week is going to give you guys a little preview. We're going to start. He's going to start a new little thing about conspiracy theories that eventually we hope to turn into a show for him. So next week, you're going to get all the goods on that next
If you're into
Monday.
conspiracy theories, keep checking in. I got some great, fun stuff. We're going to talk to some really crazy people. We're going to talk to some really smart people. We're going to talk to some really inventive people. But for the most part, we're going to learn some cool stuff, my friends. And I'm going to make you say, what the F?
Good times.
Rad dudes.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your night.
Party on. Be excellent.